Oh, hello. Now, chances are if you're watching this video, you too have grown up on witchy movies and TV shows like Charmed, Practical Magic, Hocus Pocus, Twitches, American Horror Story Coven, and of course, this channel's fave, oh so beloved Wicked. And bonus points if you're neurodivergent. You've probably garnered comments over the years from folks, neurotypical patriarchal conforming folks. When your name would come up in conversation, they would say things like, "She's out of control! She's in her villain era! She's a freak of nature! She's a witch!" Without ever knowing what a real witch is, and that it's a fucking compliment to be called one. We've been brought up with the idea that a witch fits the archetype of a hermetic old spinster who lives in a cottage in the woods, owns a black cat, casts spells with black magic, and eats naughty little children. This is a caricature that religious and conservative men empower throughout history and unfortunately still today. When we look at examples like candy corn lollipop-headed American presidents. Calling Taylor Swift not hot anymore project upon self-assured women who refuse to be manipulated and controlled by weak-minded men and their misogynistic narratives that aim to keep women beneath them. So what they do is make up a villainizing label for headstrong and brave women that don't bow down to them and surrender their autonomy to them. When you're being called a witch, what you're really being called is powerful, impactful, worthy of great respect. I'm gonna start from the very beginning, how the term witch became a negative thing and why we need to break down the stigma of it being some sort of slur meant to insult empowered women. Most notably, the Salem witch trials is one of the most popular and earliest origins of women who are unusual in some way, being accused of witchery and being a force of some ungodly nature as a result of being unusual. This is because New England Puritan culture of the 1600s was the established norm at the time that these trials were going on. The Puritans believed that while in the eyes of God, men and women were equal, the devil had a heavy bias toward women, which is why Puritans held the belief that women were vulnerable, unprotected souls that were vulnerable to a sinful nature and were probably more likely to be damned to hell after death. So Puritan women would aggressively work to assuage this grave fear that they had of being sent to hell by conforming to strict Christian ideologies and lifestyles that they believed would save their souls and gain them a ticket into eternal life in heaven. And a lot of historians also suspect that is why so many women who were on trial during the Salem witch trials, or at least part of the reason, that they admitted to doing witchcraft on the stand, because they either actually did believe the devil had a hold over them and that they were impure and felt like they needed to repent through honest confession. This time in history was rampant with accusations of women who didn't conform to the norms of a Puritan society, like those who never married or never had children, were all the time hit with witchcraft accusations for not fitting a should-be woman profile. They were all about punishing women for being single, childless, outspoken, or righteously defending herself. And these women most oftentimes consisted of midwives, intuitive and natural healers, widows, or even just plain rebels that said, "Fuck it! Fuck this shit! We're human beings! We don't deserve to be beneath men. The purity bullshit is just to keep men elated and on pedestals so that we'll stay dependent on them." I don't know if the Puritans spoke in a British accent. That's just how I supposed that they spoke because of their Great Britain roots. But I don't know linguistics. I don't know when American accents became the norm in history. I don't know when American accents were integrated. Anyway, sorry, we're back on topic now. I think. I cannot make any promises here. So naturally, the ones who chose to be independent had dirt thrown on their name and were accused of being possessed by satanic forces for being disobedient to fear-mongering religious law. So the people in the Puritan culture resorted to calling these women witches. How it became code for over the centuries to describe a woman who doesn't care about breaking the fragile egos of overgrown man babies who think that they are superior to women and don't don't want women to be aware of their own personal power. And when women are unafraid to use their personal power, society likes to label that as being a witch. Something that is merely just a woman who values herself and knows that she's worthy of a great life and will be fine with or without a male counterpart. This is something that makes misogynistic, insecure, weak-minded men mad. Because see, they got this kink for controlling women. And they get scared shitless when a woman can't be controlled or manipulated. She refuses to be an object or a servant and fit the mold that men were programmed to see women as. The societal programming that men have been trained to see women as. When women refuse to fit that, these little boys are scared shitless! Because that means that women are their equals! What? Such an effrontery! So to be considered a witch nowadays, you have to have just enough men and pick-me women to hate you because you don't fit with or go along with the norms of a society that was established by dead rich white men who gentrified an entire country and wiped out a whole race of people just because they were bored and had nothing else to do. They were just on a power trip and got away with genocide, which makes me want to talk about modern day witch accusations. Now, some would argue the media carries out its own witch hunt and trials, but not in the form of hangings and burning at the stake like they did in the olden days, but rather in the form of online gossip and cancellations. Some famous examples being Taylor Swift, Millie Bobby Brown.
I grew up in front of the world, and for some reason, people can't seem to grow up with me. Instead, they act like I'm supposed to stay frozen in time, like I should still look the way I did on Stranger Things Season 1. This isn't journalism. This is bullying. The fact that adult writers are spending their time dissecting my face, my body, my choices is disturbing.
Brie Larson.
Why is there so much dislike for Brie Larson? Well, if you're a fan of the MCU, you might know her as Captain Marvel, but her casting didn't sit well with everyone. Some felt her portrayal as Carol Danvers lacked the needed intensity, and her acting was criticized as too flat. Plus, Captain Marvel's gender change from the comics raised eyebrows, with some thinking that Marvel was just trying to please female audiences. But things got worse after Larson's comments at a 2018 press conference. She said, "I don't need a 40-year-old white dude to tell me what didn't work about A Wrinkle in Time. It wasn't made for him." Despite later explanations, many felt alienated by her words.
Anne Hathaway.
Have you heard about half the haters?
What's up with this?
If you go online, you kind of pick up on this a little bit. Anne Hathaway, apparently very aware of her critics. If you hadn't heard the term, half the haters are these sort of snarky people who view her as, I guess, not self-deprecating enough, a little too self-serious, perhaps. It kind of springs a lot of it from her, quote, surprise speech at the Golden Globes. Inspired a flurry of tweets, almost 20,000 per minute. I guess I asked around because I don't quite get why people have to hate, if we must use that term.
Right.
I guess it gets to false humility, is what I kept hearing, saying, oh my gosh, I can't believe I won this award. Not the first actress to ever do that, by the way. I'm going to use this, she said, as a weapon against self-doubt as she looked at her Golden Globe. So I don't quite get it, but it's out there. If you go online, you see it.
But you know, at this point,
so sad. I mean, the number of haters, period, out there.
That's the point.
It.
People in the media may not always use the term witch to describe all of these women, but it's the same idea. It's the same thought process of people calling empowered or outspoken women witches. These are women that go against the grain in their respective careers by being non-basic, or they're very outspoken about their beliefs or lifestyle or whatever the fuck else they talk about in the public media. Tale as old as time. Women can never win. When we dare to be ambitious or show raw, honest emotion, or properly defend ourselves, we get called too much, or just plain old witch. I mean, you don't see powerful and successful men being shamed and slandered for being a wizard, do you? I didn't think so. When you look back at history and you see the kind of women that inspired the term witch in the first place, women who helped heal the sick and in pain, or endured the loss of a spouse or couldn't have children, or felt confident to handle life all on her own, despite nasty ridicule from her local community? Do people really think that being called a witch is still an insult? If anything, it's just elevating us. But thankfully today, witchy women and witchiness, well, mostly, are getting the long overdue recognition for it being a cool thing and a symbol of feminine power, thanks to the visibility of communities on social media dedicated to niche interests of divination, energy work, natural healing practices, and that of the like. Which, of course, also comes with a double-edged sword, because not everyone in these circles will have pure intentions. There are charlatans out there who prey upon the vulnerable and scam desperate people for money, claiming that them and what they're offering is the only thing that will help the person with whatever they need help with. It kind of falls along the lines of if you have to tell people you're good at something, then you probably aren't good at it at all. But these grifters and scammers are not the true soul alchemists that real witches are. But you know, the same shit goes for every other social group, with there being good and bad apples. So you can't really pin all the negative shit you hear about witches or witchy women who practice any sort of work that involves a strong intuition or spiritual streak as bad or evil. That is patriarchal programming to maintain the status quo of Anglo-Saxon Protestant stemmed norms and ideals that keep conservative, fake, white Christian men in power, and everyone else who doesn't fit that profile at their mercy. So yeah, if people hate witches and think they're all evil, then it's time for them to take a good hard look at themselves, because this kind of ignorance and quick judgment says nothing about witches or witchy women, and everything about witch haters themselves. When you look at it from a bird's eye view perspective, a witch or a witchy woman is a societal mirror that shows people exactly what they fear and triggers them to attack in defense. So anything negative somebody has to say about a woman who identifies as a witch or being witchy is a reflection of their own insecurities and narrow-mindedness, and isn't anybody else's problem but theirs. The verdict is in, court is adjourned, case dismissed.
Thank you very much. Goodbye.
No, but seriously, I seriously hope all my fellow witches and witchy women enjoyed and felt very much affirmed and acknowledged by this video, because it's messed up out here, y'all. And we all gotta have the audacity to start speaking facts into the universe. And I want to encourage you to make your own video here on YouTube as well. About witchiness being cool and a good thing, I think this conversation needs to continue. But if you don't want to go that far just yet, that's okay. You can just give this video a thumbs up and join my own little coven I have right here on YouTube by clicking that subscribe button, so you can be notified every time I put out a new video that I make from the audacity, because like Hannah Montana, I got nerve. I'm now going to rewatch all the witchy movies and TV shows, and when I'm done, I'll see you in the next video. Bye!